So we got there, and there's this big statue, about 4 meters tall, and on it, a guy completely wasted in a Batman costume. And when he was climbing down, he got caught by his cape and was just hanging there.
Welcome to a new interview. This time it will be with a firefighter with whom we talked about how difficult it is to get into the force and everything he has experienced during his service. We'll share some funny stories, but also some sad and even chilling ones. I also asked him about some urban legends, like whether they really do rescue kittens from trees. I think the answer will surprise you. If you enjoy my content as usual, don't forget to like, leave a comment, share the video, or subscribe to my channel. It really helps me a lot. Thank you so much. And now, enjoy today's interview. Hi, welcome. Thank you for accepting my invitation. So tell us, what led you to this, or how did you end up becoming a professional firefighter?
What led me to it? To tell you the truth, I'm not really sure because basically when I was 15 and started school here, I began with vocational training. I didn't want to get my high school diploma. I wanted to work with my hands. But around the age of 15 or 16, in my first year, I started thinking it would actually be good to get my diploma and join the emergency services.
Yeah? So you just thought it would be good to be like,
Yeah, the diploma is really the foundation and it's not really that hard to get. So I thought I'll go for an extension program and get my diploma.
so you did 2 more years on top of that?
Yeah, so I did 2 more years. Then I started working with my hands and I was thinking about where to go next. And honestly, I was drawn more to the firefighters than to the police or the army. So I went to the first round of exams. I passed, but they didn't pick me. Back then, there were, I don't know, 45 of us and they only took two.
So out of 45, only some made it through all the tests. And from those, they only took two, right?
Exactly. So I went there a second time, and at that point, I also applied to the police, and I got accepted by both the police and the firefighters. But I chose the firefighters.
Okay. You didn't want to be a cop, huh? Shooting and all that, it just didn't appeal to you.
Maybe I would have enjoyed it too, but I just wanted to be a firefighter more to help people. I'm not saying that police officers don't help, but people curse at the police.
It's true, they also have those thankless parts of the job, like giving out fines and so on.
Exactly. And actually, I applied to the police because if I didn't get accepted as a firefighter, I could later transfer from the police when a spot opened up, since it's possible to move between the services now.
And you don't have to do all those psychological tests again, or maybe just some of them, right?
Some things you still have to do, the ones that are different, but it's not such a big deal anymore.
Once you're in the system, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so then you took all those extensive exams. What did that actually involve in terms of the process?
Yes, I passed all of them. So first, there are the physical tests where they invite you to a central station. First, you go to the pool, you swim
Oh, so there's swimming?
200 meters in just under 4 minutes 50 seconds, which I personally believe is quite a lot for someone who doesn't regularly swim. It's a rather impressive achievement,
Okay.
so I had to prepare for that a bit. It's doable.
But you can't swim it doing the doggy paddle, right?
No, you can't. You can't. We had a guy there who swam at breaststroke in about 420, but then he couldn't do the push-ups.
Yeah.
Basically, either he was exhausted or he was a swimmer who was just used to swimming.
So you had to learn it, like actually train to do freestyle, right? At a certain pace.
Yeah. And for someone who really can't swim, who just can't synchronize everything,
Wait, 200 meters is 4 pool lengths, right?
50-meter pools.
Those regular 50-meter ones with the windows. So, well, try it sometime. It's not exactly easy if you don't swim.
Yeah, like if you don't swim, it's kind of a significant problem, for sure. Then you go do push-ups and sit-ups. You either choose push-ups 35 in 2 minutes or 12 pull-ups.
Well, then you'd rather do the push-ups, right?
Definitely the push-ups. Of course, you have to do more push-ups. That's the minimum number, and you have to reach a certain point score,
Yeah.
8-point score.
35 to pass, but it's better to do about 50 so you're like in some.
Sometimes just 5 or 10 more is enough.
Yeah.
For someone who, isn't a good swimmer, it's better to do 50 push-ups because they might struggle with the swimming part.
Okay.
But you have to pass every discipline. And then there are 50 sit-ups or 45. I don't want to tell you the exact number. You can find it on the internet.
So what did you do? Push-ups?
Of course, I did push-ups and sit-ups.
Pull-ups seem crazy to me though. 12 pull-ups is a lot, right?
It is, but again, if someone weighs 75 kilos and works out a bit, it might be easier for them.
So they can easily do 20, right? Those are the tough guys.
And for the push-ups, you have 2 minutes and you can rest, but only in the up position. Like you can't sit down. You do 20, but you can't sit down now.
So in this case, like when you're on the ground, right? Or what does up position mean exactly? Oh, with your arms straight?
with your arms straight
Uh-huh.
at the top. So it's not exactly easy either. If you pass this part, then you move on to the skills tests. Skills tests, I think they don't do them anymore, but they used to. There was, for example, a ladder extended up to about 30 meters. You had to climb up, but you were secured.
Yeah, that's quite a height. Damn.
Church towers are usually about 30 to 40 meters tall. You climb up that ladder, a fire truck ladder, we can describe that in more detail later.
Sure.
And you climb all the way to the very top, and then you hang yourself up there, kind of like leaning back, almost like an angel, so that your safety rope securely holds you.
Like this. And then you just let yourself be lowered down, man.
No, you just hang there just to show you're at the top.
I see.
Then you unhook yourself and climb back down. Or sometimes you had to hammer in a nail up there, but that was only at about 20 meters. There was a board and a little nail, a small hammer, and you hammered it in. Then there was changing a car tire. I also thought I'd be changing it on a Tatra truck. It was on a Fabia. The important thing is the procedure. Put on your vest, set up the warning triangle,
Oh, so that's
secure the car so it can't move. That means handbrake, gear engaged,
so you don't panic, basically.
so you don't panic, and change the tire. Then there was first aid, basically real life scenario. For example, a pedestrian was hit by a car at a crosswalk and there was no one else around, just you.
Yeah.
They wanted to know how you would act, whether you call an ambulance, what you do first, if you put on gloves, how you communicate with the person.
Yeah, like as if you were just a civilian and you came across the situation on the street. How would you behave again? Like whether you can keep a cool head and
Exactly. There was fake blood, so blood was actually spurting from the leg.
how did you handle it? Did you take any courses beforehand or what? You know, like you put a tourniquet above the wound and then what? Or
Number, you mostly just press on it. Basically, you put a pressure bandage there,
uh-huh.
but it's not about having to know how to do it. They want to see how you act, how you respond.
Again, it's about following the procedure with a cool.
Exactly. Cool head, clear mind. Then we had a darkened basement where you got a mask that was blacked out. You just couldn't see anything. And there they tested your sense of orientation.
So it was like being completely blind, just stumbling around in there.
Yeah, they put you in there and wanted to see how you moved. Whether you crawled on your knees, walked normally, or dragged yourself along. Whether you hold on to the walls. Then you made a loop, maybe 5 or 7 minutes, and they asked you where are the doors.
Yeah. So this is supposed to simulate like a smoke-filled burning building or something?
Yeah.
Or something like that. What's the best way? Like, should you go on your knees or along the walls? Or what's the best approach?
Crouch down or on your knees and stick to the walls. Always hold on to something. Left or right side, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Just stay close to the walls. Every apartment is different. And then there was some carrying of 20-liter canisters, full over a certain distance. On top of that, we also had to lay out 2 full water hoses. Of the B diameter, that's the thicker kind, which even a 100-kilo guy struggles with.
Really? That's heavy.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything, all things considered.
So those were the skills.
They scored this as well, and if you managed to do it, they told you that you passed,
Mm.
and then you waited home for a letter
Yeah. So you already knew right there on the spot.
that you passed. But whether they'll invite you to the next round, you don't know. They have to make a selection.
Just whether you met the required points.
Exactly, because for the physical tests, there were about 45 of us. 15 people didn't pass the physical test, so there were 30 of us left. 28 passed the skills tests, and they only needed about 5 people.
Ah, so that's how it is.
The letter arrived, I advanced to the next round, and I went for the psychological tests.
The psychological test, they say that's a real nightmare too, right? That there are these disconnected questions. It messes with your head. You stare into a fire and those kinds of things, just the usual stuff. How hard was it to actually do? Like, I can't
Those psychological tests, they were hardcore, I'd say.
really.
It's not exactly easy, but it's nothing that a normal, reasonable person couldn't handle. They need to find out if you're lying and how you behave in extreme situations.
Which they can tell just by the fact that there are so many questions, you can't really guess your way through.
Exactly, it's like, I don't know, 5,000 questions, but with simple answers. 100 questions that kind of repeat themselves but phrased differently. You just answer, keep going, you have a certain amount of time, and you just write,
And how many questions are there?
I don't know, 3,000, 3,500,
And how much time do you have for that?
up to 4 hours for those questions, yeah.
Damn.
Then you get a little break for lunch or a snack. Then you draw a tree, a family, and the psychologist will take that afterwards.
Hmm.
And then you go do reaction tests.
Did you draw a tree too?
They judge you based on that. I'm already getting bored of this, but I think it had a crown. And I
it had to have fruit, man. So that means you're like fertile, dude. If they're plums, then you're an alcoholic, or you know what I mean. That's what they figure out from it.
That's exactly the kind of thing only the psychologist knows. Whether it has roots, how the tree stands,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Whether it's nicely sketched out, yeah. All right. Okay then. So you drew a tree and
And also a family.
a family.
Draw the family members or the whole family somehow. Again, you were supposed to describe who you're drawing,
Uh-huh.
whether you drew your mom, your dad. Basically, they can probably tell who you like more or,
Who you drew first and made nicer.
yeah, basically. So,
If you draw your dad in flames, for example, then it's pretty clear that something's not quite right.
then you go to the reaction tests.
Reaction tests. What does that mean?
Basically, they sit you down at a computer for 25 or 30 minutes and give you headphones.
Hmm.
A low tone in your left ear, a deep tone in your right ear. You have pedals for left and right.
Hmm.
And on the screen, colors start appearing, and you have a keyboard with 4 or 5 colored buttons. And it keeps getting faster.
Repeat.
And you keep going. Exactly. You do this for 25 minutes straight. It keeps speeding up.
You play this for 25 minutes, man. This,
Yeah.
like when you're stepping on those.
You come out of there totally sweaty.
Yeah. But 25 minutes is brutal. But maybe, you know, if after 10 minutes you mess it up, you can just give up, right? And so maybe that could be important too. Or whether you can keep a cool head and keep going, it's hard to say.
Yes, yes. And this is for machinists,
I mean, drivers.
basically for drivers. So if you pass the psychological test, but don't pass these reaction tests, they can still accept you, but only as a firefighter.
Yeah.
So not as a driver.
And if you later wanted to become a machinist, as I already mentioned.
Then they'll send you again for the psychological test, and either you pass them or you don't. After that, there was another short break for drinks, and then more reaction tests. On the computer screen, there were squares. So 5 squares in a row, and each one had a differently colored corner. And below them was a row in columns. Basically, imagine graph paper, and there were those squares, basically the same, with the corners colored in.
Hmm.
And you just press which one it was, and it would show you whether it was on the top or on the bottom, and you had to press which one it was. And it kept getting faster again.
Yeah. How long you do for?
Also 20 minutes, like quite a long time. And here they were testing if you get flustered, because as soon as you missed this, since it was speeding up, once you missed it, you messed up the whole thing completely.
Yeah. You couldn't pick it up again after that.
Exactly. So it was actually better to pause for a second, wait, and hit it right. So you skipped 5 squares, but you could keep going. Yeah, I was sweating. And then after those reaction tests, when you finish, you go and answer some more questions again. There aren't as many this time. I don't know, maybe just 300, but you're writing again.
Dude, how long were you there? Like, were you there from 7 in the morning till 6 in the evening or something like that?
From about 7 until 2:30. So like 8 hours, more or less. And then there's the interview with the psychologist where they ask you, why did you answer like this? Why did you answer like this here? At the end of the interview, they'll tell you whether it looks good or bad.
Hey, what's the deal with that fire question? There's always that question like, do you like watching fire? I always say, honestly, I do.
That's a really interesting question, because when I specifically asked about it, everyone clearly told me to say that you absolutely do not like fire.
But that's just
But I do like it. So I didn't lie to him. He asked me in what context, and I said, I like lighting the fireplace at the cottage.
of course,
I open a book, sit by the warmth.
that doesn't rule anything out. You can be a firefighter and still like fire.
Yes. Just because I'm a firefighter doesn't mean we don't have campfires at home.
Exactly, because what? You just roast your sausages in the microwave, man. All right, so it's more about not lying to him. Like, he can tell when you're lying, or even lying to yourself, or you're fooling yourself. I'm not, like, or
Something like that. It would be best if you invited a psychologist here to explain it to you.
yeah. He'd analyze me so much I'd end up crying here, man. All right, so you finish the psych test, the psych evaluation, and then you go home and wait again.
And you wait again
Damn.
to see if you made it to the next shortlist. You get a letter again after about 2 or 3 weeks, and they invite you for medical tests. They check your whole body, literally from head to toe, all the x-rays. And in the end, it finishes with a stress ECG test. They stick those electrodes on you and put you on a bike, basically a stationary bike. They set a certain load for you. Usually it's 3 to 4 levels of resistance, each lasting 3 to 4 minutes. With each level, the resistance increases, and on the bike, there's a green light and red arrows, and you have to keep the right cadence.
So you have to stay within that range, not too much, not too little.
Yeah, when he set the first resistance for me, It was fine, like an easy hill. The second resistance was a tougher hill, and by the third resistance, I was starting to feel uneasy. I was starting to.
You can stand up on the pedals like when you're riding uphill.
You have to stay seated, you have to sit, and then every 30 seconds, the nurse wants your arm and measures your blood pressure.
I see.
So you're holding on to the handlebars with just one hand. By the third level of resistance, I was really twisting it, almost tearing it off, and I kept telling myself I could handle it, but honestly, I was feeling really sick.
Was it more about your fitness or were your legs giving out too?
My legs were giving out because you didn't stretch or anything.
Right? You just show up there cold and
They sit you down on the bike, and then he turned on the fourth level of resistance, and everything went black before my eyes. But I kept pedaling.
well, I guess the point is that they're supposed to push you almost to the point of collapse, right?
Yes,
Or to some limit.
to some threshold of blood pressure, heart rate, I don't even know exactly which ones, but basically they have to get the maximum out of you. They take you off the bike, no stretching, nothing. Lie down here. How you feeling? I told him I was fine. I mean, I wasn't about to ask him where I could go throw up. They give you another paper, and basically you go home and wait to see if you pass the tests because they don't have all the results right away. They'll give you the results from that. Like, they'll tell you how you did because they can see that, but you have to wait for the overall results from the whole hospital. The tricky part is that you have to give notice somewhere because usually after you finish the whole process, they tell you to start in 3 weeks on the first. But who is going to let you leave your job in just 3 weeks these days, especially when that person is needed somewhere? So let me go back to the stress ECG for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's usually on the sixth or seventh floor of the hospital with no elevator. So going down the stairs, you basically crawl for about an hour because your legs are completely dead, just totally. Getting into the car was a superhuman task.
If you even managed to drive home after that, man.
But anyway, this part ends. And then after about 3 weeks, they give you your assignment. Then you go to pick up some more things you need. Usually it's somewhere in the central warehouse, so you get there. Half the stuff isn't available. And the other half they'll give you in about 3/4 of a year because it all has to be made to order.
Oh, I see.
And you get your gear and report to your assigned station.
To whichever station they assign you to?
Yeah, the one they designate for you.
Exactly. So it's nice and warm in here. I realized we're here with a firefighter, so I went with the red color. That's just a technical detail. And now you're assigned to a station. How should we imagine that? So a station, how many people are there? How does it work? How do you actually serve? How many days a week? What's the exact system here?
So they assign you to a station. Usually you get assigned to one. You can't choose.
Number. So, for example, it could be on the other side of the country, right?
No, that's not the case. In your region where you applied, where you were accepted, that's the region where you get your station. There are different types of stations, but I'll mostly talk about the central one. The central station is in a larger city where there is more equipment and more people. It's organized according to the area. Of course, there are also several types of central stations. In Prague, the central station is the largest with a lot of people working there. At the central station, there are usually a maximum of 15 and a minimum of 11 people on duty now.
Let's say it's some kind of district town or something like that, like a medium-sized city. Then there's one larger station or central station where there are about 15 people
15 people per shift with a minimum of 11. Everyone is assigned their own equipment.
so that you are ready for action.
Yes, under that central station, those are called branches or branch stations. So P1, P2, at the branch, 5 people are on duty, minimum 4. So only one person can take vacation at a time. But again, people fill in for each other. From the central station,
Are those still professionals then?
yes, but that's already a smaller town where there aren't as many callouts. It's determined by response distances, by the number of inhabitants.
So it's all calculated somehow just to make sure everything is covered?
Those are the branches that actually fall under the central station. Usually, the central station has 2 firefighters, 4 or 5 drivers, 3 technicians, 2 team leaders, and 1 platoon commander. The technicians I just mentioned to you, they have a higher rank, but basically they are responsible for certain things. The technical service technician is in charge of the hoses. The chemical service technician is responsible for the breathing apparatuses, plus a ton of other things, but they also work as firefighters with the others.
Yeah. So everyone does firefighting, but it's just a matter of dividing up the ranks. So just so I understand, there's the commander, the technician, the driver, and then just the firefighter.
Firefighter and driver, or the positions called firefighter driver, they have the same rank insignia as a sergeant. But the driver is allowed to drive the vehicles. Then we have a division of vehicles, so usually the first response is some kind of 4-wheel Tatra or Scania. The second response at the central station is basically the same vehicle. Both of these vehicles are equipped for pretty much any intervention you can imagine. They carry about 4,000 liters of water, have breathing apparatuses, rescue equipment, and chemical protective suits on board.
Is there some kind of ladder on that vehicle?
They have extension ladders, well, the kind of ladder you have at home in the garden. It's similar, but these can slide into each other. They're about 8.5 meters long.
Oh, so it's not that kind.
No, 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 exactly. They carry hoses.
So it's kind of a truly universal vehicle then for all purposes?
Basically, yes. And each vehicle has its own sort of commander. And then there's also the platoon commander, and I imagine that's the station commander, right? The station commander is someone completely different. The platoon commander is only in charge of the people on that shift.
Oh, so just the shift at that station. But then there's also a commander over multiple shifts, and that's
Yes, we haven't gotten to that yet, but we have 3 shifts, A, B, and C. Each shift actually works from 7 in the morning to 7 in the morning the next day, so 24 hours. Yeah, I probably won't go into too much detail, but we have a set daily schedule where basically from 7 in the morning until 2300, we're on duty. There are some morning activities, afternoon activities. During that time, you can go work out in the afternoon as part of physical training. There are drills and station maintenance takes place. The days are divided up. On one day, we have to test and start up everything that has a motor.
to see if they work.
Exactly.
So it's like you're basically there all day. And even if there's no call out, you still have some kind of program every day.
Exactly. One day we do the equipment tests, the next day we wash the vehicles, and on the third day we clean the entire station because we don't have a cleaning lady. On the fourth day we clean the garages again. Cleanliness has to be maintained then. There's mowing the grass, taking care of the greenery, and maintaining the outside of the station.
You're kind of a self-sufficient community there. Really, you actually have everything you could possibly need right there.
Basically from 7 to 16 we have our working hours when we really do this maintenance, or there are trainings and drills.
But at any moment, the alarm can go off and you have to go.
Yes, as soon as the light comes on and the alarm sounds, you immediately stop whatever you're doing and go do what you need to.
Sure.
So you go out on a call.
As you mentioned about the crew for the call. So we've actually described the first vehicle, the second vehicle. So that's 4 firefighters, 4 people, 4 people.
The second crew doesn't always have to be fully staffed because we have more equipment. We also have the ladder truck. Now there are new ones, about 40 meters long. We have an old 30-meter one.
So that's just a separate ladder truck, indeed.
There's just the ladder, basically. There's a small chainsaw for when we trim trees that are at risk of falling. It usually has its own hose for those 30 meters where you can put a monitor nozzle on top and extinguish a house from above. Then there's the Zaz. That's a rapid intervention vehicle,
Like a van or something like that.
usually a transporter. Some places have them, some have Land Rovers, but
I often see that it's really just red. Sometimes not even that. Well, they have beacons, but often drive without them, and firefighters are just in the back, actually.
no, that must definitely be an official's car because every emergency vehicle must have a beacon.
Yeah, so what about the beacon? And they always go flying, actually. So there may be somewhere, what's the point of that?
That's for accidents.
So they can get there quickly.
Exactly. There's rescue equipment in there, and now almost everything is battery powered, which I think is great because rescue equipment on cars used to be motorized and you had to use hoses. So you'd pull out the unit, start it up, connect the hoses, and only then could you start cutting. This is basically like a cordless drill. You just take it out and start cutting. It has the same power, it's just a bit slower because of the gearing. You can pull it out immediately and you're ready to go. The RZA also carries 200 liters of water. That's for the initial response, like when a car is on fire on the highway, and most importantly, there's an ADAN, automated external defibrillator.
Yeah, like a shock device, something like that.
Basically, a defibrillator, we just commonly call it that for short, and now you can readily find these essential devices in many public places like gyms and banks.
I know, I saw one in a shopping mall.
In a shopping mall,
The police often have them.
the police, I think they should have them in every car.
Maybe they do have them in all of them.
But I had a guy here who said they're not in every car.
Yeah, I think in some places they were trying to implement it, and he told me that he's already used it several times himself, and that
Because it's used a lot, for example, like for first aid.
actually they often get there faster than the ambulance or the police
Then we have some containers, already chemical ones.
for some special interventions and so on.
Technically a vehicle for shoring or for malfunctions. When there's a collapse, exactly.
That's the crazy thing, that there's so much equipment that firefighting is actually just a part of what you do when. So yeah, so that's the entire dedicated crew then for the actual important call out. And now I'm genuinely curious. So you show up as a complete absolute newbie at the fire station, and can you already immediately work as the primary driver, or what exactly is the situation? Or how do they figure out what you can actually do? Or
Well, you can't do anything. You arrive at the station and you're what they call a rookie. You don't have any courses, no training. They usually put you on the first truck. There are two regular firefighters in the back, so there are five of them going out. Sometimes it's not possible, so they go out as a crew of four and that person goes along too. But usually that only happens after about 2 months, once the person has learned something at the station. But you start out as a sergeant every morning. Since we don't have a cleaning lady, the hallway and the toilets have to be mopped.
you do your rounds, you know?
You do your rounds, you go get snacks for the older guys.
Yeah,
Right.
dude.
But I can honestly say that after these few years, things have really changed for the better. Because when I started about 14 years ago, the guys would order a case of Coca-Cola, for example, and another wanted a case of mineral water. And I had to go on foot.
On foot, really?
And the nearest store was about 900 meters away from us. That's just how it was set up. Now I think it's better.
So when you initially start, do you ride along in the very first vehicle and basically observe what they are doing, or how exactly does it work?
Yeah, basically, after a few shifts, they let you sweep up, maybe
Like,
direct traffic at car accidents and so on. But as soon as there's a fire or something, you just have no business being there. You don't have any training. And that's actually what the chemical service technicians are for. After a few shifts, they introduce you to the breathing apparatus. You have to be trained to use it, so they test you on it afterwards. You need to know how it works, how long you can stay in it, what you can do while wearing it, how to assemble it, how to connect it, all those things.
okay, if you set it up wrong and use all the air too quickly, or if you over,
Yeah, you can.
do you switch it to oxygen or something, or
It's not an oxygen tank, it's air.
air, right?
Anything can happen to you. You just have to know how to operate it. You have to know the pressure in your tank, calculate how long you can operate because everyone has a different consumption rate. You arrive, you have 300 bars, you walk 50 meters with the hose into the building up the stairs. You look, you have 280, which means you've used up 20 bars. And for the way back, you need at least 40.
40. So, you know, you can stay there as long as you have at least 40 left, and then you have to get back.
Yes, usually you leave a re-reserve because at around 50 bars, there's a safety whistle that starts to sound, letting you know you're running low on pressure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And everyone has a different consumption rate. A guy who weighs 110 kilos can last 35 minutes. A guy who weighs 65 kilos can last an hour. You have to be able to drag a guy. That's just how it is.
If you can drag him, then for one thing, he's big. Sure,
Let me just jump back to those skill tests, if that's okay.
that's fine.
There was an 85-kilo dummy you had to drag. Basically, you dragged it 20 meters around the cone and then 20 meters back again.
Hmm.
You're dragging a dummy that's stuffed to 80 kilos, looks like a person. It's dressed in those typical mechanic overalls you see at an auto shop, like a coverall. And it's 80 or 85 kilos of dead weight. Yeah, of course, it's really not pleasant. Like, it's really not pleasant to drag it.
Okay, so those are the breathing air tanks, or what exactly do you call them, perhaps?
Breathing apparatus.
Breathing apparatus. And you have to know how to operate them well enough to pass some kind of test or something? Or the technician has to see that you know how to do it.
Yeah, the technician has to know you can do it.
And only then can you actually use it in practice.
And only then will he tell him, yes, if there's a fire again, if there's a fire, if, say, a trailer is burning and there's nothing inside, then you can let him extinguish it under supervision, simply under the supervision of a colleague. So he puts on the breathing apparatus, you let him extinguish the fire, but basically you're just waiting for the basic training course.
I see. That's how it works. So basically, you just hanging around and watching, and how long does it take before the basic training course comes up?
Whenever a spot opens up,
They're always scheduled for a certain date.
yes, and now since there are so many people, they've organized a lot of courses. It's running all the time. It used to be just in the fall and spring. Usually the wait is anywhere from 3 months to a year. You should have the basic course completed within a year. When COVID hit, that wasn't really the case because everything was canceled. So some of the guys who joined us had to wait a year and a half for the courses.
So for a year and a half, they just brought their lunch and couldn't even do anything.
Yeah, and you could be bringing that lunch for 5 years if no one joins after you.
Sure, if you're always the rookie, you know.
Exactly. If no one comes in after you to whom you could pass it on.
Yeah, you have to be the youngest, like officially the most junior. It doesn't matter how old you are. You could have 5 years under your belt. You could be a decorated hero, and you'd still be bringing lunch. It's weird.
Of course, it changes when you become a commander, which can happen after 3 years, right? But if you just keep being the operator and no one younger comes in after you,
I see.
then you're the rookie there, you know.
Damn. So here's a good tip. If you don't want to be the rookie, become a commander. All right. And then after some time, you go to the basic course or however you called it.
Yes, the basic course lasted about 4.5 or 5 months for me. Now it only takes 3 months. During COVID, it was two,
Yeah.
so it changes every time. The basic courses, I don't want to say something wrong, but I think they're only done in BRNO at HVZ BRNO or the school in Friedek. You can actually study for it in Friedek, and they also run the basic course there.
Yeah, I know. In Friedek, there's actually a whole secondary or maybe even higher education school, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And they do the basic course there too, but now there are so many people that they can't keep up. And it's from 7 to 3, you have lessons, training, drills, you're just teaching. You're basically at
School like always? Yes.
a university student.
At 3?
At 4, you finish, sometimes at 5, though. But you have your meals, accommodation, everything taken care of there. So at 5, you go to your room. You're in the,
Dorms like usual.
you take a nap, and in the evening, you go out and live the student life.
So you can, like at 25, still start some kind of student life, for example, if you join the firefighters a bit later. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. It was great. And
How long were you there? Was it about 4 months?
I was there for 4 months, yeah. And I basically only went home on weekends. Plus, it's pretty far for me to BRNO.
Right.
It's not even 220 kilometers for me. There are people who traveled 350.
And
Some people even stayed over the weekend.
initially, the setting for this particular experience was indeed at the dormitories, where much of the foundational work took place. However, it's crucial to emphasize that this wasn't merely theoretical learning. Instead, it involved a substantial amount of practical, hands-on engagement, providing invaluable real-world experience and skill development through direct application and active participation in various exercises and projects.
There was some theory. Every day, there was always some theory from 7 to 8 or 9 about what we were going to do. And they introduced us to everything. So they gave you the theory first. What we're going to do, how to put out fires. Today we'll be there, so firefighting, this and that and that. Today we're going to practice vehicle extrication. The procedure, how you should start the rescue, what you need to do. Today we'll do swift water rescue too, because we have boats, we rescue people. After all,
Your waterman.
so basically, watermen. So we learned there how you should behave on the water, what to do if you capsize the boat. And then we actually tried it out ourselves. Some of the trainings were like that. Some of the exercises were good, not just trainings, it was great. And some were a pain, like physically really demanding, that wild water. It's just,
It's better to do it in the spring, not in winter, or, well,
it wasn't exactly warm in April.
yeah, that's true. You really don't feel like swimming.
We have so-called dry suits. That's a dry suit, kind of like a wetsuit.
Yeah, yeah.
But water shouldn't get in, so it's relatively warm in there. After those 4 months, you have an exam, a practical and a theoretical one, like a graduation exam, right? A graduation exam, but just for firefighting.
You draw questions.
In my opinion, if you know how to pay attention, you have to enjoy it. That's absolutely key for me. If you don't enjoy it and you're just sitting there because you have to, you probably won't learn it.
Right.
If you truly enjoy it, if it genuinely grabs your attention, of course, there are certain specific things like some chemical detectors and so on, those particular aspects you just have to learn. I think nobody really enjoys that particular part, but a significant 80% of it you can pick up just fine, either theoretically or from practical experience. So you don't really have to keep repeating it over and over again. Before the exams, you just go through the questions, you get all the questions. It's not a problem.
If you enjoy it, if you're passionate about it and you're not being forced into it, at that age you already know what you want to do. So it's not like in high school where you do things you don't enjoy.
Yes, you know that if you do this, you have security, or at least you should have the security of long-term employment, a stable income, that kind of thing. It's not like you say, learn something and wonder why you should even bother. Get a diploma and end up driving a truck anyway. I don't need any school for that. Here, you know you need it, and usually you've already gone through something. So from this, you know what you would need. What is important for them? What if you don't do it? You get one retake. And if you don't pass it here, then you're done. Then you're no longer a firefighter. You're not a firefighter anymore. If you don't do it, it means you don't want to do this job. Sure, you might draw a really bad question. It happened to us that a guy knew everything the whole time, but he drew a really bad question or a tough one. You can't really say that because these are questions we basically all have to know. And he got really nervous. He just couldn't say it. And he left. The instructor went after him. We were all done. He was already packing his bags. He was completely devastated. The instructor went after him and said, "Come tell it to me." He just stared at him. He said, "If I'd known they'd want me to do this today, I would have learned it." He thought they'd kicked him out of the group. Yeah, of course. They sat him back down and he said, "Calm down." He said they chatted for 10 to 15 minutes just about life, got rid of his nerves, and then he delivered his answer.
So they actually try, you know, if you show some enthusiasm and all that, that you're not an idiot. That's exactly about.
The graduation exam. The teacher sees that you've been working all year, you're not an idiot, so he doesn't want to fail you. Why? If you haven't been working all year, you don't go to school, you cause trouble, you have bad grades, why should he
Help you out. Exactly. So that's good, right? By then, your colleagues are there, and it's not about anything else anymore. Nothing else matters. What's important is just being established there. All right, so you finish the basic course, and then you go back to your station.
and you return to the station, now with the rank of senior sergeant,
So you already have stripes?
you get your rank, you get your class, and you also get a risk allowance on top of that.
So a completely different salary.
Already is definitely better. You can actually make it work with that. Usually when they hire you, they already know whether you'll be a firefighter or a firefighter driver. That depends on what kind of driver's license you have, whether you have experience driving vehicles and things like that. So you start either as a firefighter or as a firefighter driver. And when you finish the basic course and your paperwork says firefighter driver, you work as a firefighter and wait for the next driver course, which lasts about 14 days or 3 weeks. You go there, you don't drive any vehicles, but you learn how to operate all the equipment that's at the station.
What does that mean? Chainsaws, pumps, chainsaws.
Pumps, Cobra device, 1.7 device. Quickly, those are on the containers. That's in the firefighting container. We have the Cobra on the 7. Tatra, which I didn't mention before. The 7. The Tatra is a 6-wheeler that carries 9,000 liters of water. The Cobra is in that vehicle. It's a device, basically a pressure washer, into which abrasive is mixed.
Which is something like fine sand, and
It can cut through anything.
damn, so it's basically a cutter.
Basically a cutter, yes. It's used a lot on airplanes. What they told us during training, and we have this, the container is on fire. Yeah. It's closed, and when you open the door, basically the flames shoot right out at you. Sure. So we get there, you put the Cobra on, it cuts out a hole, you turn on the abrasive, it makes a little hole, it goes inside, you turn off the abrasive, and then you extinguish with water.
Because it's widely dispersed, much like the fine, powerful spray emanating from a high-pressure washer, it possesses a remarkably effective and efficient cooling effect on the surrounding environment, and simultaneously the rapidly expanding steam actively and thoroughly pushes out all the trapped air, theoretically creating a more purified atmosphere.
I mean, sure. No, it doesn't always have to work. No, there could be something. But, the way you describe it in a very simplified way, that's basically how it works.
And UAN-7?
UAN-7 is a device for producing dry foam. It's in the name. From 1 drop of water with UAN, you make 7 drops of that dry foam. Yeah. From 1 drop not of water, but of that foaming solution. We probably won't go into detail about that. And that's also used when you need to cover a flammable substance, when you need to cut off the air, so you cover it. It has an insulating effect. It also has a cooling effect, but not a very strong one because there's very little water in it. But the insulating effect is that it cuts off the air and the fire goes out. It can be used a lot now, say your house is on fire. Or, well, not yours. Sure. Someone's house is on fire. Yes. And if the houses are, say, 2 meters apart and one is already burning badly, to prevent the neighbor's house from catching fire, we can cover it with that dry foam.
Yeah, like a black shift. And that will
Hold.
Aha, so it doesn't soak in, that's important. It doesn't.
It slides down, but very slowly because it's dry and light.
If the flames were to hit it, then actually the foam kind of absorbs it or something, but the roof doesn't catch fire. It should.
Protect it, not the roof, but I mean, for example, the facade. The facade, yes, exactly. Those flammable polystyrenes and things like that.
And at the same time, you don't soak the house like you would if you sprayed it with water, right?
Yes, you don't soak it. And mainly if you spray it with water, it can't have any effect
It just evaporates, right?
because the water just runs off.
Yeah, exactly.
It runs off and whatever stays starts to evaporate, so there's nothing left. Extreme water consumption and no effect.
So here, low water consumption with high efficiency. Exactly. So you have special machines for that, which you as the operator have to learn to use?
Yes. You have to be able to operate all of this. We have the 1.7 on the container and the Cobras in the 7. In the Tatra,
With that large water capacity?
yes, indeed, it is important to acknowledge that there are also various mechanical functions that play a crucial role in this context. These functions are integral to the overall operation and performance, ensuring that everything works as intended. For instance, they might involve the precise movement of components, the generation of specific forces, or the intricate interplay of different parts to achieve a desired outcome. We must consider these mechanical aspects carefully, just in case any unforeseen circumstances arise or if there is a need for detailed understanding of their operational mechanisms. Their presence is fundamental to the system's integrity and reliability, providing essential support and enabling the successful execution of tasks.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to operate it. Yeah, and then of course you learn the regulations, you practice with the ladder. If you want to go on the ladder as a driver, you need to have a stamp of approval. And there's really a lot to being a driver.
Can we describe like a typical day at the station, like from the moment you arrive at work in the morning?
So it starts at 7 a.m. with the shift change. So in the morning at 7, there's the shift change, the start of the shift. We stand facing each other and hand over what they did during the day, what went wrong, what could still happen, what we should know, what needs to be done that day. Because there might be some work prepared. Maybe some debris needs to be hauled away if there was demolition, or if a tree was trimmed, the branches need to be taken away. Yeah, so this is handed over what went wrong, what doesn't work, what does work. They leave, and we each go. We divide up the vehicles, decide who will be where, and then each of us goes to take over our own vehicle. You take over the vehicle, basically test it to make sure everything works, establish communication, which is extremely important to ensure all the radios are working, and you go through the entire vehicle to check if anything is missing or if there are any leaks. This usually takes place from 7 to 8 or until 8:30 when we check the equipment, and then comes the morning activities. And that's when it's decided whether it's a day for drills, whether the vehicles are being washed, or whether the station is being cleaned. If none of the necessary station maintenance tasks need to be done, we usually have some drills or training sessions.
So it's not like in those American movies where five guys are sitting on a couch watching porn or something. It's not like that at all. There's always something going on unless there's a call out.
Yeah, basically, it's not like that. There's a saying, the firefighter lies down, the alarm runs.
Yeah, like you just lounging around all day with no call outs and that's it. But in reality, you're either doing some kind of maintenance or you're constantly training, improving, and learning new things. There are
Drills. Every 3 months, each of us has to do a drill with the breathing apparatus, for example. We have to do drills. We go to the scrapyard or the car junkyard and work with cars. First aid, we train for that almost regularly because there are always new procedures. In the 14 years I've been there, the ratio has already changed. The ratio of compressions to breaths for a patient who isn't breathing,
That's true, yeah.
about 3 times.
Yes,
Yeah, now it's 30 to 2. That ratio changed at least 3 times during that period.
but for example, that's not the whole day. So sometimes it's only until around 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and
Then you have some truly free time in the evening, right? Like you might play some cards or at the very least some dice or whatever else you might enjoy, right?
usually we do some kind of sport, like we can play ping pong, foot tennis, we play around the table, push-ups. So just like 6 guys play around the table, and whoever gets knocked out has to do 10 push-ups. And sometimes it ends up being 200 push-ups per shift. Or we go work out, there's a gym there.
So you have everything there. So the evening is pretty calm. And how is it with sleep then? Do you really have to stay up all night long, my man, or what exactly? Or can you actually just
Until 11 p.m., we basically have what we just described. Some free time for fun. Yes, not completely free time, but it's just going over what was done just like that. And yes, we have dinner, we go work out. And around 11 p.m., we have an evening briefing where we talk about, because you have to record it in the guard log, so the commander writes everything down for you. We send out the reports, and then we go to bed. We actually have bedrooms there, regular beds, and you sleep until 6 in the morning. At 6 a.m., the alarm rings and you get up. You brush your teeth and prepare the station and equipment for handover. The handover, and
the next shift?
on all the vehicles that were out, the windows are polished. Every window has to be cleaned. The toilets and showers are cleaned. The hallway shouldn't be crowded. The kitchen is cleaned if someone cooked before, so the station is tip-top.
So you hand it over just as you received it.
Exactly. All right. And at 7 a.m., we switch again. We add the information we received, what is needed from us, and the next.
Shift begins and you go home. And so you work every other day.
Every third day. Every third day. So there are 3 of you.
The new ABC shifts are proving to be very beneficial, contributing positively to improved operations and overall productivity. This is a welcome and effective change. It's great for planning your life. Of course, I can also take vacation, so you can have a lighter day or maybe a week or two off for a holiday where
We take our vacations. And after 15 years, you also get a therapeutic wellness stay. So either you go to a spa or you stay at home.
so it's actually like this. You can cover for each other. So it's really not a problem if 1 or 2 guys take vacation at the same time.
No, exactly. That's why our maximum is 15 people, minimum 11. Now, start next year, there should be 16 of us.
Yeah.
So we'll be hiring again. Well, actually, I think it's already in process.
Look, that's all you described. Assuming the red light and siren or some kind of bell don't go off. Siren. Is there...
A subsonic tone. Not subsonic, but like a dog whistle, if you remember, but so that it wakes you up at night. So it starts to whistle, the red light comes on, and when it stops whistling like a school intercom, it announces what's happening and where we're going. So we say fire, high-rise building, city.
Okay, so that's what we have here, and that is the current situation that we are facing.
Just pre-recorded in the system. There's a voice like in Google Maps. So the dispatcher, they call the dispatcher, he gathers the information what's happening, where it's happening, how many people are there, what happened, and he enters all that into the system. At that moment, the red lights come on for us.
And it already tells you what's going on and what you should prepare for.
Where we're going, exactly.
So how long does it take? Like you're sleeping and then the alarm goes off. How long until you're in the vehicle?
We have to be out of the station and on the road within 2 minutes.
And do you actually manage that? Like even if you're in your underwear or whatever, can you make it? No,
I manage to get dressed normally, like
and do you actually slide down the pole there, or is that just an idea, like just for show? We do.
use the pole.
Really? Yeah.
Some stations have a pole, but they don't use it because our station has 2 floors. And the pole is by the bedrooms and the stairs are on the other side. There are 2 bedrooms there. So those who sleep by the stairs take the stairs. But before we run across, we go down the pole.
So is it actually faster that way?
Definitely, definitely. There are stations that have 6 floors.
Wow.
And before you run up all those stairs, 6 floors, you...
Down pole. That's always significant.
No, the act of skillfully climbing onto yet another pole, demonstrating incredible agility and balance. That's truly an absolutely awesome and remarkable feat to witness.
And I think I'm laughing like, but I think it doesn't matter how old you are really or how serious the situation is. It still has to be fun, right?
Ride on a pole?
Ooh, 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 ee, ee, ee. E E E E E E E E E E E E E. And you have by the car?
Yeah.
So that's how we got to it. You have by the car, you have some kind of hangers or something.
We have some hangers there, just a regular hanger. That's where you put your shoes, pants, coat, the gear. You start getting dressed. Some of the guys put it on what's called nakrutka. Imagine you have those intervention boots, about as high as rubber boots,
Hmm.
and you pull the pants over them. So you just jump into the boots and pull everything up.
And you put on those sleigh.
And you put on, yes, you put on the suspenders.
So basically like Paja for the first time.
Basically,
Damn. Yeah, basically something like that. So yeah, so you have your socks, underwear, you jump into it, put on the suspenders, and you throw on the coat, and you're already in the car, and there you button up, get dressed, and that's it.
the driver basically goes like this. The driver usually finishes getting dressed at the scene,
That's true. The driver already has to be on the move.
and the guys in the back put on their helmets. Now, when they're heading to a fire, you know they have to take breathing apparatus, thermal camera, just equip themselves with whatever gear is needed.
And does someone still inform you about that while you're on the way in the vehicle? The commander says,
What's going on there? Many times, for example, when it's an EPS signal, which is basically a fire alarm, a sensor, then he says, put on your breathing apparatus, but don't open the cylinder
you have to unlock it.
because it's sealed. Because we get there and there's no smoke anywhere, so 90% of the time it looks like the EPS, the batteries in the sensor just ran out or something. So it reports to the control panel.
So if the batteries run out in a sensor, say in a shopping mall or something, does it immediately call the firefighters?
Yeah. And there's usually a number that the dispatcher calls. If they can't reach anyone, then they send us out.
If they do reach someone, they ask, hey, is there a fire there or what? And they say, no, negative, the batteries just ran out and so on.
Exactly.
So that's how you end up going out to alarms with dead batteries.
Sometimes, yeah. Or like it's happened quite a few times that a computer power supply caught fire there.
Just a bit of smoke or something.
A little bit of smoke.
Look, but that's in the case of a full alarm, but sometimes the alarm isn't full and you end up going out to a burning building, let's say. So what's the procedure? What happens when you're heading to the scene?
I'll stop you there. Let's jump back in the car. We're in the car. And we're heading to a fire where we've got a clear report that there's a fire and the commander already knows. Whether there are people inside the building or not, how big the building probably is, the dispatcher gets all that information from the caller. Exactly. And he's there and we're on our way. And he says it's on the third floor. So the guys are already thinking about what all they need to take with them. They equip themselves with breathing apparatus and a thermal camera. How long should the hoses be connected? We already know that. For example, we have baskets in case we go with the mirror. When you have a staircase in that apartment building and there's that gap in the middle, you just run the hose through there. And basically, even though there's no elevator, there's just an open space. So you
run up to the floor where the fire is, and from there you drop the hose down, and then it gets connected. Yes. So you don't get tangled up on the stairs. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Also, it doesn't get kinked.
for protection or your protection. So
Yeah, so you'd be ready right away. Well,
and I meant like the flames.
just saw that.
You go, it starts burning right where we are, and you want to come back here for the SD card with some good recording on it. You just come here, run in, at least grab some water or a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I understand. I get it.
I was just asking if there's some particular technique to it, like sometimes the garden hose can unfortunately kink and stuff, right? I mean, is there a specific method or approach to prevent such issues from occurring?
You just have to be ready, really. If flames suddenly shoot you, you'd be ready right away.
Exactly.
We kind of jumped ahead a bit. So you're in the car, you're heading to the fire. So this is what you're preparing and already dealing with. And we're already dealing with it, yes. What's mainly happening there and so on.
And the commander already knows how many units are on their way, how much water he'll have, how many vehicles with water will arrive. So we arrive, and it looks like a lady burned a duck in the oven. So we get there, pour a bucket of water on it, disconnect the gas, and the lady offers us lunch, but says it's not ready yet. The winter
is burned.
She would have invited us for lunch, but she doesn't have any, so...
So those are the kinds of stories. But let's say you're really going to a fire where it's actually burning when you get out of the truck. Do you already know exactly what to do, or is it up to the commander who gives you the orders? The instructions?
The commander gives us instructions, but most of the time we already know what we're supposed to do, what we need to take with us.
So everyone has their own role, right?
Yes.
So, for example, let's say you're the driver of the first vehicle. You park it, you more or less know where it should be, maybe by a hydrant or, I don't know, in a certain position. You probably have this practiced. And after you park, what exactly is your role then? Do you immediately go and
get out at that moment as I'm putting on my helmet, and I get out and lay out the first B hose, that's the thicker one,
with
a larger diameter. So I lay out the B hose connected to the truck, and the guys are already hooking it up, and I'm already operating the pump, giving them water. The commander, if he's there with them, I can see him, he'll report to me, we'll need water here. He organizes the units, asks, how much water do you have? I need water here. He'll come over to me and start filling me up so we don't have to switch hoses from the truck. So when
you're refilling your
truck, he refills me, another one arrives and they take turns. I send one of them somewhere to get water. Of course, when we're in the city, there are hydrants. We lay out 5 hoses and we have a hydrant. But in some places where there just aren't any, they take turns and I send someone for water. On the tablet, he opens up the hydrant network, sees the nearest hydrant, drives there and starts filling up. And that's how they rotate. The guys go upstairs with a charged hose line and they conduct a search. They're looking for people.
Right, that's the first thing they're interested in. Yes.
Finding people and animals, actually. Animals are secondary. But people and evacuation rescue, that's first, then comes extinguishing. Sometimes that's not possible at all because it's really burning a lot, so you have to start extinguishing right away. We try to protect other apartments if we can. That's extremely difficult. Whether it's a house burning, a family home in isolation, whether it's in a built up area, or if it's an apartment on fire, whether it's burning in the basement, each situation has its own procedure. Yes. Then it's also important to remove, for example, propane butane cylinders if they're somewhere in the building because they must not be allowed to heat up. We moved down to the basement. People are collectors. Diesel prices went up. So there were people who had 200 liters of diesel or gasoline stored in the basement. And you go in there, it's smoky everywhere, full of smoke. You can't see anything. You start putting out the fire there. When we put out the fire in the basement, then we saw about 30 canisters there, 15-liter, 20-liter ones, and all of them full of gasoline.
Holy crap, yeah.
Because the individual simply heard that gasoline was going to become more expensive by 3 or 4 crowns, so he immediately went to fill up his tank. If we had known this, if someone had told us, we wouldn't have gone in there. That's suicide. Luckily, nothing happened.
But he was basically standing right above it, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's absolute utter madness, truly. It's quite an astonishing and bewildering situation indeed.
So you finish putting out the fire, or perhaps the commander probably decides that all the hotspots are now secured. But what exactly does he say about it? Elimination?
Of the fire. Basically, the first step is localization, which means the fire is no longer spreading, that we're stopping it, and then comes elimination.
Which fundamentally means that you primarily eliminate the actual source of, I don't really know, whatever it is that is currently burning or causing the combustion.
And then you actually go everywhere, or through the whole flat or the entire basement with a thermal camera checking the critical spots where it burned. The thermal camera shows you how it burned, what the temperatures are. So you go there, you look at the wall, it's like a thermometer, but with a thermal camera.
That
We also use for searching for people. We go through the whole place with a thermal camera, make sure everything is fine, and then the fire investigator is called, who investigates how the fire started, estimates when and how, and assesses the property and these things, and then we start packing up. So all the hoses have to be rolled up and stuffed back into the truck. Well, just back to the station, the driver goes to refill the water, then diesel. We have to have at least 3/4 or 90. There must be that much fuel in the vehicle. The driver records what he used, how much he used, refuels the truck with diesel, notes down the kilometers, engine hours, and closes out the trip. Because every trip here has to be properly verified in some way. So when we go on a final trip, we have to fill everything out. The commander has to approve it for us, and then we have to record how the kilometers add up. Sure. And when we go out on a call, the dispatch gives us the order to respond. And then everything gets washed down. Breathing apparatus, they have to be replaced, refilled in the truck, and all the hoses as well. So all the hoses are washed, dried here, and from the storage, we take the other ones not new, but the ones that are clean and dry and put them in the truck.
because basically, if I don't clean it up properly, there could be another fire somewhere else in half an hour, and you have to be ready.
So you
Come back from that, and it's like your second shift is starting because you have to get everything back to its original state. When at 4 in the morning, let's say after an all-night intervention, and before your shift even ends, you have to clean everything up.
When it's 4 in the morning, you refill the breathing apparatus, top up the water and diesel, put the breathing equipment back in the vehicle, take out the dirty hoses, and pile them up, and only put in the clean ones. We don't wash them at 4 a.m. We leave that for the next shift because they're going to be dealing with it basically all day. They can take care of it in the morning, no rush.
So that was what happens when you go out to a fire, which is what firefighters are mainly known for. But as we've already hinted here, you actually do a lot of other things as well. Everything falls under your responsibility, right?
Basically everything.
Yeah, that's how it seems to me.
We go to accidents really often. Fires are rare. And a lot of the time we're called to open apartments for the police, opening apartments when someone hasn't been heard from, or carrying patients downstairs.
Carrying patients downstairs, like when they're...
We carry patients downstairs for the ambulance service, which means the ambulance usually arrives with just 2 people. And yes, common cases are what's called a transport of an overweight patient. It sounds simple, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, these are people weighing over 180 kilos. And the worst are those old apartment buildings. It's really not a pretty sight because these people, they're only able to just lie there. They have nothing in their room. Someone brings them food, and next to their bed, they have one of those chemical toilets because they're not really able to move.
So they can't even make it to the bathroom, not to mention anything else.
Exactly. and they feel really terrible, sometimes for a whole week, and then at 2 in the morning, they suddenly decide to call an ambulance. So the ambulance comes, finds out that the person has to go to the hospital because they can't even wash themselves properly. They're lying on their back, so they already have bloody sores on their back.
Yeah, those pressure ulcers, like bed sores.
Exactly. Bed sores and bloody wounds, just that kind of purulent stench. And the whole apartment is really permeated with that smell. So we get there. We have a transport sheet for that. It's a sheet about 2 by 3 meters with sewn in eyelets. It's a reinforced sheet, kind of like the material from a truck top, if you can picture that. And it has handles sewn on, just fabric handles. We put the person in it and carry them down the stairs. The worst are those apartment buildings, the 3, 4 story ones, but with staircases. It's only 80 centimeters wide. And now two firefighters have to walk side by side with the oversized patient between them. Sometimes it really takes an hour just to carry them out before we can get them onto the stretcher. It's been working like this for a while now, and the new ladders are already designed for patient transport, so you can pull up with the ladder right under the window. You attach ropes there, and that's where the stretcher for the oversized patient goes. You slide it into the window, we just lift them onto it, and then you actually get them out using the ladder.
Okay, so you don't have to carry them down 3 flights of stairs.
Exactly.
That's a huge help.
And a firefighter goes down with the person on the rope, like in climbing, tied together with them, and goes to assist. You can't just leave the person there alone, so you take them down. This really is a huge help. But the people, that's really tough. There are more and more of them, more and more all the time. And before I joined the fire department, it never even occurred to me how many such people there actually are in our town.
Because you don't know about them, right?
Because they don't go anywhere. Anywhere.
But like you said, someone has to provide that service, right? Someone brings them food there and just leaves them there to slowly die. That's terrible.
Let me give you an example right now. We had a lady who weighed about 220, 240 kilos. She lay on the floor for 4 days. Her 14-year-old daughter would bring her food to the floor, and she would soil herself.
So she called the ambulance then?
And then us. She called the ambulance at 11 in the evening, not at 2 in the morning, but at 11. The ambulance arrived, and at 11:30 we set out to help. We were there until about 3 in the morning before we were able to manage. The ambulance has to stabilize him a bit, treat him, and also get him out of those excrements. So, some of those white sheets, those tarps they have, just to wipe him off a bit so we don't get everything completely dirty. And right here, we don't have the ladder for carrying the patient down. We can call for it from the other central station, which has about a 40-minute response time, but the person would have to wait. But there was nowhere to set up the ladder here, so we went down the stairs.
So you were struggling with that person until 3 in the morning.
And then we still had to unload him at the hospital.
How do you, as individuals or as members of your team, truly feel about spending half the entire night on something like this when there could actually be a real and pressing fire somewhere else?
Honestly, to be completely straightforward, it's just not pleasant. We have to act professionally in every situation. We have to maintain that professionalism, but honestly, it's really not pleasant.
You probably get really quite frustrated about it there then, right?
Exactly. There are accidents where you really, really work hard. You spend 2 hours doing something, cutting people out, cleaning up, just working. The time just flies by, you don't even notice. But here you're just standing in that stench, basically waiting until the paramedics say, let's load them up. We load one side, then she has to turn him over, maybe clean the wounds or something. Then we go down one floor, and there we have to turn again. So we set him down. Now we switch positions, because even for 4 guys, it's really tough. And especially when you're carrying him down the stairs, you can't keep him completely level. So, of course, the head is kept up, but the person at the bottom has to bear more of the load.
That's sure, yeah.
So we take turns, and right after this patient, we got back around 2:45, and about 10 minutes later, we were called out to a really serious fire.
Feeling quite exhausted?
Tired, worn out, sleep deprived, because we usually go to bed around 11. It was 11:30 when we got the call.
Wow. Well then, I guess you probably don't really think the very best of a person who acts in that particular manner, do you? I mean, it's quite understandable. Yeah, that's clear. How often does this happen? I mean, if you can compare it, does it happen several times a month or?
Yeah, it is. I wouldn't say it's the most common, but these kinds of call-outs are getting more and more frequent. Like, sometimes we even do patient transports when a nursing home calls us directly because some elderly lady has fallen. So we go there and she doesn't want to be treated. So we help her get up because she was just going to the bathroom with her walker and it got stuck. I get that the walker got stuck, so we help her stand up. She asks us if we can help her onto the toilet, so we do, because her leg hurts a bit from lying on it awkwardly for a while, so we help her onto the toilet. She calls, we put her back in bed, and then basically the nursing home staff takes over from there, for example, if it happens at 2 in the morning. We give her a quick examination, check if she doesn't have any broken bones, if she's not bleeding, or if she doesn't have any large bruises. We put a sensor on her to measure her blood oxygen, an oximeter, and check her saturation. And if everything here is fine, then we leave. If that's not the case, we call an ambulance to have them take a look.
Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing, you mentioned opening doors, so you guys are kind of like quick locksmiths, right? For example, if someone reports that a pensioner hasn't opened their door for a week, is missing, nobody knows about them, and there's suspicion that something might have happened to them. They've been lying there for some time, and the police actually can't just go in, I guess. So they call you and
The police can we can't go in unless there's an imminent danger, so we can't just go through those doors. That's why the police are there. But often the police aren't able to break down the door if it's some kind of security door.
so that's when you come in.
So that's when we come in. We have lockpicks, we have grinders to mill out locks. We usually try not to cause any damage, but if there's an urgent danger, we just kick the door in, break it down, and go inside. And most of the time, when the person is already lying there like a corpse, which actually happens quite often, the worst are those hoarders. When you open a door that's 90 by 2 meters and there's only a passageway 60 by 1 meter. Just a little path, everything stacked up.
A tunnel, like one under a pole, right?
Yeah, so you have to crawl on all fours. It really smells terrible in there. A lot of times we use respirators, especially when the person has been lying there for, say, 14 days, 3 weeks.
Yeah, when you put on that breathing.
We put on a breathing apparatus.
So you don't have to smell the stench, right? That's a good life hack, actually.
The person is already decomposing, so we get there and realize there's nothing we can do for them. And this is exactly where hoarders are really problematic, because we have to wait for the coroner. Usually when someone is found dead in an apartment, it's no longer our job. But if it's a hoarder, we have to get them out of there.
Because otherwise they wouldn't be able to handle it themselves.
So, which is better? To throw out all that junk or to drag him through the narrow path?
So you drag the half-decomposed corpse through that particular path out into the hallway?
Yeah, yeah. We get some kind of tarp from Havran and try to keep the body in one piece. Once we were clearing out, sometimes people survive in garages around here. You know, those garages, like a row of garages.
Yeah, somewhere in the outskirts.
Exactly. On the edge of town. So they sleep there overnight. And there, that garage was also packed, and the guy had a tunnel about 40 by 50 centimeters, but only maybe 3 meters long. And then he had his own space set up in there. He probably had it insulated, so it was better to just throw all the junk out.
Out in front of the garages, of course.
Yeah, but yes, that's the kind of work we do.
All right, so that's the opener. Then you have, well, you already mentioned this, and I think it's probably the most common accident. There's a procedure for that where the rapid response vehicle goes first and
The rescue car heads out, then the first vehicle follows, but the rescue car should always get there first. Right? That's just so it gets there as soon as possible. But the thing is, there are only 2 people in it. So usually they assess the situation, gather as much information as possible, and report it to the commander in the first vehicle so they can prepare. What's going on there? They report 5 injured. We're going to need to use the cutters. I climb into one of the cars and start giving first aid to the person who needs it the most, for example.
it's very often about providing first aid in those situations. There's the risk that you might get there even before the ambulance does.
Definitely.
And you actually cut them out.
So then the extrication begins. Usually one of the firefighters climbs in behind the injured person. Sometimes it's just not possible. The car is really crushed. Sometimes we just know we're cutting out a corpse. Someone arrives already decapitated or just completely crushed. Sometimes we arrive at an accident scene and the person appears completely fine, but they just don't respond at all, you know? They're completely out of it.
So your primary approach is probably to check their pulse or try to communicate with them, right? And you mainly cut out those who can still be saved.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
So you have to assess.
Yes, you have to assess the situation, but in cases like this, when the person really looks fine but isn't responding at all, the ambulance arrives, the doctor comes, and often he just decides, guys, is everything okay? You're cutting out a corpse, there's nothing left to save here. So you have to try to get him out without causing any more harm, because it's not like we can just cut him in half to pull him out, right?
Yeah, you still have to maintain some dignity.
Right, but it's no longer a rush.
Exactly.
You just say to yourself, okay, we do it this way.
It's not that race against time anymore. And now you can
You can do it more slowly, calmly, and sometimes, honestly, we really have to cut quickly, and sometimes it just doesn't work. Some cars, like the Fabia, which is a completely common car, we had a guy wrapped around a tree in a Fabia. It was just so terribly mangled, and it's so easy to cut when we're at the junkyard because that's soft. But the way it was crushed against that tree,
Sure. So it was all compressed.
and we actually have shears, and then we have a spreader. It works the opposite way of the shears, and it tears things apart. And there was nowhere to put the spreader because the car was so extremely crushed,
Pressed together.
pressed together. Then there's a spreading cylinder. But again, if you don't have anything to brace it against, sometimes we just end up turning it into a matchbox.
It occurs to me that probably the craziest and most profoundly challenging thing that can happen to a firefighter during a critical rescue is when they arrive at the scene and suddenly realize they personally know some of the people deeply involved. For example, has that ever happened to you that you knew the people that you were cutting someone out whom you knew?
Yeah, I have cut someone out. Well, cut out is kind of a weird word. You cut out coloring books. So basically, I extricated someone I knew. Luckily, he wasn't seriously hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, so the worst part is when it involves children.
Hmm.
When you have to extricate children, I can tell you that in these 14 years, it hasn't happened to me even once.
You should be glad for that.
Thank you. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful because those are really the kinds of incidents that can break you down,
That must be the worst.
especially when you have kids at home.
All right, let's move on from that. Then there are some interventions that kind of get passed around as stories. And honestly, I still don't know if it's just an urban legend or if it really happens. Do people call you because grandma's cat is stuck in a tree? Like, do you actually get animals down from trees?
It does happen. Maybe not that often, but it still happens.
I always thought it was just a joke.
And I don't really know how to say this so it doesn't sound weird, but it does happen. We do get called out for it, not as often anymore, but we still do. A lady calls saying her cat is stuck in a tree, so we go there and try to explain to her that the cat will come down on its own.
Wait a minute, you show up with that really big truck and a whole crew of 4 people. Like, that's quite a sight to behold.
The first vehicle,
So, the first vehicle with those 4 hefty guys in that big truck, you show up for a little cat that's just sitting on a branch, right?
yeah, it's like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 meters up in the tree, and the lady insists the cat can't get down, that it's meowing like crazy. So we try to explain to her that if the cat managed to climb up there, it's also capable of climbing down. The lady doesn't believe us, and actually, it just so happened that we were parked near some Vietnamese shop. So we found a pouch of Friskies or something like that, pedigree or whatever it is for cats. We put it out under the tree, and within 5 minutes, the cat climbed down by itself. So now we always carry 2 pouches in the car.
So, the basic equipment for the first vehicle is whiskas pouches for cats, right?
Because, it's generally better to simply stand there for about 5 or even 10 minutes and patiently wait to see if the cat truly comes down on its own, rather than immediately calling for a ladder or attempting to build your own a makeshift ladder from the car and then climbing up for a cat that's inevitably going to be scared of you and just run off somewhere else.
Honestly, until now, I really thought it was just a joke that it just doesn't happen.
No, no, no. It actually happens quite often.
Do you often have to get animals down from trees like that?
Not all that often, but it does happen. Honestly, I don't really want to say we even get parrots down.
But parrots can actually fly, can't they?
Well, we had one call like that, but that was about 8 years ago. A lady's parrot escaped. This was a parrot worth about 80 or 90,000 crowns, and it flew up into a tree. So she called us, and we arrived with the first vehicle. We had to call in a ladder.
You mean that special truck with the ladder, right?
Yeah, so a special vehicle with a ladder arrived, or just the ladder itself. We went up to the parrot. We were about 2 meters away, and then the parrot flew to the next tree. So you have to pack everything up.
The ladder comes back down, right?
You have to pack up the truck. It gets packed up like a crane, basically. So you pack up the truck, move it to the next tree, and extend the ladder again. And the parrot flew away again. We were clowning around like that for about 3 hours. I don't know, he flew between 5 different trees. And when we got to the last tree, the parrot flew off, and at that moment, an eagle or a hawk swooped by, grabbed the parrot, and disappeared.
It caught it just like that.
So it successfully caught its prey, had a rather expensive lunch, and we just found it all really quite amusing.
Of course, you spend half your shift chasing a parrot up there.
And then an eagle just comes and takes it from you. But the owner wasn't too happy about it, of course.
I mean, sure, that parrot was like 30 years old, you know, so it's really like a member of the family.
Yeah, family member,
Exactly.
everything. But
When she was so desperate that she called the firefighters, I get that it probably wasn't easy.
and the most bizarre thing was that afterwards she wanted us to go look for that bird of prey with the parrot.
Like, you were supposed to go rescue it.
Yeah, because she saw it fly there. There was a bit of forest nearby, so she saw it fly into the woods. At that point, it probably didn't make sense anymore.
So you refused to do that then. Hey, how do you handle something like this? Is it classified as a pointless call so the person has to pay for it afterwards? Or is this
No,
considered a normal, legitimate intervention? It's simply about helping people, and that's totally fine.
it's helping people, you know. We don't decide what counts as an unnecessary intervention. That's decided by someone at the regional office.
You take animals down from trees. Then there are other things like, I don't know, pumping water during floods, for example.
Pumping water doesn't have to be just during floods, but also pumping or vacuuming up water. If someone's pipe bursts, we even have that vacuum that can almost dry up all the water, because before you'd be left with 5 centimeters of water. But we also go out for fallen trees, searching for drowned people with a boat. Many times we go out when someone calls us because a roof tile is at risk of falling from the roof, stuck in the gutter, so we go there and have to remove it. We also go out to knock down ice in winter. When it freezes and there are those overhanging icicles above the sidewalk, we take care of that too. Icicles and those overhangs, eliminating troublesome insects.
You mean like hornet nests? Or what exactly?
Hornets, bees, wasps.
So, like, do you just aim a stream of water at them or what?
No, we actually have special sprays for that, or alternatively, we use a powerful vacuum to suck them all up.
So you end up with a vacuum full of hornets?
No, that would blend them up.
There's a propeller in there.
There's a propeller that mixes them up so they never bother anyone again. We have buckets for bees and usually call a beekeeper to see if they want them.
Of course, there's no real point in blending them, right? Someone might want to take the entire swarm.
Yeah, but most of the time they don't want them because they might have some disease.
You don't know their origin,
They say it could potentially ruin their entire beehive.
right?
We used to go everywhere, or well, we weren't supposed to, but we even went to people's homes because everyone would say they were allergic. Someone in the family,
Oh, so if someone said they were allergic, we had to go.
so we had to go, and now it's somehow been limited. I don't really know who or how it was limited. Maybe? Maybe the operations team? They can somehow tell now. Now we go to public buildings, school state buildings, and places where it's a threat.
It poses a public threat, not just when someone has it at home, you know?
But if there's a restaurant full of people, a patio, and there's a swarm above them, then we go there.
Like some wild animal that escapes from the zoo or something like that.
That too.
So you also, right, you catch tigers and such.
Yeah.
Has something like that ever happened to you?
Not a tiger. We once caught a zebra that escaped from the zoo. We also go out to stock elevators. It's kind of like opening up closed spaces. That's why we deal with elevators. Many times we find some drunk person in there. And we also go to cut off rings. When someone's finger swells up, they go to the hospital because they have a ring on and the hospital can't do anything about it. So they call us. We come over. We have a very special blade for that particular purpose, which we carefully slide under the ring so we absolutely don't cut the finger. And then we proceed to cut the ring.
That's basically jewelers, man. Undertakers, jewelers, veterinarians. Dude, that's a really universal job.
Yeah, basically, whatever you can think of.
Bodas. I think you should actually rename it because, like, firefighters is a totally insufficient term these days.
What should we be called then?
I don't know. Techs, technicians, like Fer de the Ant, jack of all trades. I don't know. People can write in the comments what they think would be a better name for this service, but you only actually put out fires like 20% of the time, right? Most of the work is totally,
Yeah.
right? Mostly accidents, really.
Maybe 30% is actually firefighting, but those accidents. And then we also go out a lot for those AED calls. We go out to those calls quite often because the ambulance has them, the police have them too. Although when the police go, they usually send us along with the police. And the ambulance always has to go out if there's a defibrillator involved.
The point is that sometimes you can get there faster, right?
Definitely, for sure. Definitely, especially when we're already out somewhere, the dispatcher can see where we are.
So you might be close by.
Exactly. Or the ambulances might already be out on another call. The ambulance could be in a neighboring town transporting a patient. The second ambulance might be at an accident. So then we go. Now, a lot of volunteer firefighters have this, which is a huge help because without volunteer firefighters, we probably wouldn't even exist. They really have coverage, whether it's for fires, not so much for car accidents. They have to be designated for it. Those volunteer firefighters have to be somewhere near the highway.
Yeah. So it's some town or village close to the highway exits, and because of that, they have some specialization for it.
Yes, designated.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you. How big of a role or how much help are the volunteer firefighters for you? How do you see them?
A lot. It wouldn't work without volunteer firefighters. The coverage, I can say that somewhere in the middle of the Czech Republic, it's probably fine. But the problem is the Jeseniki, Shushuva, Krkonoše, those mountains.
They actually have a huge advantage in that they're right there in the area. And before you get there from one of the main or bigger cities, they've already jumped in. And even if their response time is a bit slower than yours, they're still there much faster.
Exactly. They also divide into different response units. The most common one here is JPO3. They have to respond within 10 minutes. And then there's JPO2. They have to be there within 5 minutes. And I think they already have to have some kind of standby duty.
So they're kind of semi-professionals already, right?
Not exactly. They're still volunteer firefighters, but for example, it could be a municipal employee who takes care of the recycling yard and at the same time is stationed near the firehouse
Is ready.
and is exactly in place so they can respond. Honestly, without volunteer firefighters, we'd be on the edge.
So huge respect to all the volunteers. I think that's really important. You know what they say, every Czech is either a musician or a firefighter, right? I mean, the tradition is really strong here, I think, and most villages have at least one fire truck or a small station or something like that, which is honestly great. Above all, it's a huge help during floods or these kinds of emergencies, and that's how it is. In what other ways are they important to you? You arrive at a fire, and sometimes they're already putting it out. Of course, your commander probably takes over the initiative at that point, but
We don't necessarily have to.
you don't have to.
Well, if we arrive and it's just a small fire, they've already put it out. I mean, we do take over. Our commander writes the incident report, but he just says, "Good job, guys.
It's all good.
It's all good." We check it, thank them, and head out.
Great. So it really happens that you arrive and it's already taken care of?
Yes, if it's right in their area, like in that village, so they can be out in 10 minutes. Well, that village is within our response time zone. We usually have to be able to reach anywhere in our firefighting district within 15 minutes. But they're supposed to be out within 10 minutes. 3 of them work for the municipality.
Right.
Somewhere. One of them works in an office there, in that village. So they're able to head out in about 6 minutes. So 7 minutes and they're on the scene. We have 2 minutes to get going plus a 15-minute response time, so that's 17 minutes. And for 10 minutes, it would just be burning there.
Without the volunteer firefighters being there, which means 10 minutes before I even get to the fire at home. And
That's a lot. That's really a lot.
not to mention that they actually know the area or they know their way around.
Exactly, exactly. They know the best way to get there, that there might be a one-way street where you can't get through. Or they know they can drive down that one-way street. There's a bridge there. I don't know if our vehicle can handle it, but they know, so we can just go over it. Otherwise, we'd have to go around. So, and they're a big help to us now with the AED. Or not just for us, but for the ambulance service.
They can actually get there even earlier, even faster.
Yes,
So most, or actually a lot of the volunteer firefighters are already equipped with this device.
yes, they have to be well trained, and there are already quite a few of them here. I don't know how it is across the whole country, but it really is a big help even for the ambulance service, because if we consider 2 district towns where there are ambulances, and between them there are, say, 40 kilometers, so that's 20 kilometers each way, and there might be 2 or 3 villages in between. The ambulance, before it gets there, let's say it takes about 15 minutes. The volunteer firefighters, if they have an AED, they usually have it set up so it's in a smaller vehicle, and as soon as there are 2 of them, they go immediately. They don't wait. Exactly. Exactly. Those municipal employees usually drive this, and they're on the scene within about 4 minutes.
Which, in a life-threatening situation, is already a difference of 10 minutes. That's a huge difference again.
It's significant. At that point, every minute counts. With cardiac arrest, it's even more critical just breathing. These AEDs have become much more widespread now. Shopping centers, banks, fitness centers all have them. They're almost everywhere now, even in villages. Some have them
At the information point.
at the information center, and it's marked where it is. And they're at lookout points, some recreational areas, castles, or places where a lot of people gather, or on town square. So in some places they're accessible there. That's something I'd like to say to people. Try to learn how it works. We can share a link to something I really like, or you can share the link, but I really love how it's done in the form of a Slovak song. It was sung by Bastrung, I think, with Sepa.
With SEPA, I can give you the link here. Feel free to check it out.
It's about 5 minutes long, and it's beautifully explained there. that first aid, how it should look.
Yeah. Mainly because it's so catchy, you actually remember it, right?
Exactly. It's a Slovak song. When I heard it for the first time, I couldn't get it out of my head for about half a year.
Okay.
But it's described simply, and basically, it's the essentials that people need. Don't be afraid of AEDs. It's a device that will guide you. Everything is explained. There are two electrodes, it says.
I believe that because I'm seeing it for the very first time in my life. I see that someone is just having a problem, so I can manage to get it working.
Absolutely no problem. There's just one button.
Wait, you just attach it to him and turn it on, right?
You have to undress him or tear open his shirt. There are usually scissors included, so you can cut his t-shirt open. So you stick the electrodes on him. They're labeled to show where each one goes. If you switch them, nothing happens.
Sure.
They'll still work. If you switch them, does it cause a problem for the paramedics later or not? But if you attach them correctly, the paramedics don't have to use their own electrodes. They can just connect it to their better equipment. They have a device that gives them much more information,
Right.
the paramedics. And if you put them on the wrong way,
They must rip off and put on their own.
so they have to use their own, because if you put them on the wrong way, the information won't transfer. Only the basic data will be there.
Yeah. So that's why the left and right sides are important.
Exactly. You just stick on the electrodes and press the button. The device will analyze it and tell you exactly what to do. Step away from the patient. Measurement is in progress. Start massaging. You are massaging. Step away from the patient. Measurement is in progress. Development evaluated. Again,
So without ever coming into contact with it, you are able to help with it.
yes, you are capable. You are capable of helping with this. Development evaluated. Loading. So you're massaging again. Development recommended. Press the button for development. You tell everyone, step away, we're going to deliver the development. And the development won't be delivered until you press the button.
Right. So it can't shock you or anything.
Number. You check to make sure no one is touching him. And of course, you're calling the ambulance at the same time, right?
Yeah, definitely. And they can also guide you over the phone.
It's best if you have more people there. Or if it happens somewhere, like in the city center, you tell someone, come here, you'll call the ambulance, I'll handle this. Come here. You'll do the chest compressions. Yeah, one person breathes, the other does compressions. Breathing isn't as important. But you'll see that in the video. I won't go into detail about this here. There are other videos for that, but really, people don't be afraid of it.
So basically, just don't be afraid of it, right? And if that device isn't available and you want to help, but you really have no clue, what's actually the basic thing to do? Or what is the most
Call the ambulance, they'll guide you. They'll tell you exactly what to do over the phone. That's right, they'll tell you over the phone. That's in a critical, or that's the most important thing. The lady or gentleman at the dispatch center is able to guide you step by step through first aid, so you can do it.
well, talking with you about this could probably go on for much longer, but let's try to get into some practical stuff now. So, could you share with us some of your experiences from your service? And maybe I'd start with the more unpleasant ones, and then at the end we could lighten it up a bit. So,
All right. Unpleasant experiences, well, that's basically every accident with injuries, or every fire with injuries or fatalities. And probably the most common is a person being hit by a train. There are a lot of those, and it's almost always fatal. We were called out to incidents where a person was hit by a train. So we went there. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but really, the body was mangled, no head, no leg. And you have to somehow find the remains, you know? On the tracks, it's usually the railway firefighters who handle it. Every time something happens on the tracks, the railway firefighters are called in. So they were on their way, but it takes them about an hour to get to us, and we have to make sure whether we can save the person or not. Here, it was obvious that we couldn't. Well, they arrived and we helped them collect the remains because they were scattered for about a kilometer along the tracks.
when the body was spread out over a kilometer,
Yeah.
and so you walk in a line and pick them up,
Yeah, yeah. You have a black bag and you put them in.
it often happens at night. So, how do you?
Mostly it's at night or early in the morning,
I see.
so it's dark. And actually, in one of these stories, we couldn't find a leg. It was around 1 or 2 in the morning. And before it got light, we really couldn't find the leg. Once it got light, we noticed it was up in a tree.
Like it flew up into the branches,
It flew up, got caught in the branches, and was just hanging there.
but you were just looking at the ground, so it didn't even occur to you.
It just completely, now it would occur to you, but back then we wouldn't have seen it anyway because it was really dark. So this is actually pretty common. It's common to have to look for the head.
For identification purposes,
You can't just leave it there for someone to stumble upon while mushroom picking.
yeah, that could really scare someone badly.
Exactly.
Wait, so if, say you find, I don't know, the head and then, I don't know, 80% of the body, and the rest is missing. So the regulation says,
No, everything should be found. Everything should be found.
yeah, but if a finger is missing, it's not as big a problem as if the head is missing.
Right, if it's just a finger missing, that's basically fine. But the head has to be found. And at that point, it's not even really a head anymore. It looks like. Have you ever seen a punctured soccer ball?
Yeah, of course.
Or something like that. And now imagine if you completely tore it apart and soaked it in blood.
Well, collision with a train, probably.
Yeah, it's kind of,
The body just isn't really made for that, right?
yeah. Uh, the worst thing is those, suic des that they do that. Like, a few times it's happened that someone was crossing the tracks with headphones on.
Yeah, in that accident,
Yeah, that was an accident, but most of the time it's some suic D. And then what really gets to me or affects me a lot are those car accidents. We were just talking about this. I've had kids involved in accidents, but it was always without any problems. And sometimes even when the person is alive but has, say, a leg amputated above the knee, you're looking at the femur, which is actually quite thick. And now you see the cross section through the flesh, and you're talking to him, he's in shock, he's being crushed. When we start to extricate him, we actually release the pressure. So since he's being crushed, he's in shock, and then as the blood flows somewhere else, he basically slips into a coma.
when the pressure is released,
When the pressure is released, yes. But by then, the paramedics are already there, they've got him hooked up and everything. But you're still talking to him and he asked you what happened. What are you doing? Why are you cutting up my car? Or, what? Did you have an accident? And why me? Why did I have an accident? Oh, well, that's good. I can't feel my left leg. And he just doesn't have it. Yeah, so it's like that. There are tons of these kinds of call outs. It's just, or even the fires. We respond to fires. Everyone tells you there's no one inside. You still have to do a search because you never know, maybe a thief snuck in. That's a silly example. You don't know if there's really no one inside, but sometimes you just can't do the search. And then you go in and all you see is just black ashes from a person.
does that really happen?
Yeah, it happens quite a lot. Those hostels are often full of many people. And of course, in the evening, they might have a beer or a shot, light up a cigarette in bed, and that's precisely how it all starts.
That's something you hear about a lot too, smoking in bed. I could never really picture it, but I guess it happens often.
Yeah, it does. I don't know why people do it, but it happens a lot. What else could I mention drownings? We're looking for a drowning victim. No one has seen him, and we're not divers. We don't have divers. Firefighters have them somewhere, I think in Olomouc,
Some specialized ones.
but somewhere in Olomouc. So in our area, or actually in about 90% of the country, it's the police divers who handle it. But yeah, you go through some pond or river and poke around with a grappling hook. It's a hook that's 3 meters long, kept on the vehicle with a point at the end and a kind of backward hook, something like what fishermen use.
I see. So if you hit something with it,
No, that's not it. That kind of hook is something completely different. But you poke around and try to find out if there's something there with the boat. Here, there's really nothing you can do to help if you can't see the person, if they're not there.
so overall, you really have to have the stomach for it, just like in those other professions. Because you encounter the same things as the police officers and paramedics do, like really nasty situations. For example, with injured people and so on.
Yeah,
Do you remember what your very first, like, really worst real shock was? And how did you handle it? How did it make you feel?
the first one was opening an apartment where there was a man lying there with his wife, I think, or a man and a woman, and both of them were dead. We opened it up for the police, and they had been there for about a month and a half. So it was really like an extremely, extremely bad smell. And they were already starting to decompose. I think there were even maggots somewhere. And there was a dog there who had eaten the man's leg.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask, whether that's just a rumor. Because it's often said that cats do that a lot, that they start eating their dead owners.
There was one, it was some kind of Yorkshire, one of those little dogs.
Yes,
So he was gnawing on the man's leg. Well, after a month, the dog gets hungry.
sure, yeah.
And this was really unpleasant because the smell, it was probably I don't know, it was maybe after 14, maybe 3 weeks right away.
When he was still there for the stench, like,
Yeah. So we actually went to open the apartment and to have a look and all that stuff. So if I had known, I wouldn't have even gone to look.
but then again, it's probably an important experience.
Definitely. And these unpleasant call outs, like you asked me about, or those extreme ones, well, I don't want to say they're completely routine, but these apartment openings happen pretty often. especially for the police. There's usually always a dead body there.
Is it like 9 out of 10 times that happens?
Basically,
And those accidents also very often end tragically. So how long does it take for a person to get used to it? Or get used to it? I don't know, like now, after all these years of service, would you say you're a bit apathetic towards it? I don't mean to say you're heartless or anything, but it definitely affects you.
yeah, I don't know. After a year, I just came to terms with it. Every intervention is different. I actually have a friend who's a firefighter, and he went through his whole career without any problems. He was there for 27 years, and then he went to an accident where there was a younger guy who didn't survive, and he quit. He just couldn't handle it. It hit him extremely hard. So
If you have a son around the same age,
it's just incredibly hard. It's really hard.
yeah, because you're human, right? You're not machines after all, are you? You might be able to handle it for 15 years, then you'll have some personal experience.
And as for this particular case, we were dispatched for a collision. A car hit a motorcycle. We got there, and it was an older gentleman, about 60, with his wife. They were out for a ride on a scooter, and the wife took it really hard. The man had something wrong with his leg and kept asking where his wife was. We were loading his wife into the helicopter, and we didn't know if she would survive. It's just that, when the person is talking to you and keeps asking you what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, because they want some reassurance from you, like, she'll make it, right? And you don't know, right?
Yeah, and you can't tell him that.
You're not God.
But it's that false hope that's really terrible, I'd say.
You're really not supposed to do that at all, right? That's the biggest mistake.
Yeah, you really shouldn't at all. So,
It'll be okay. Or that.
no, it's kind of wild in that particular way, yeah.
Do you also have psychologists or something like that?
We do. Like, you can talk to them, and before it was hardly ever used. And now they come to the station once a year, they ask questions, chat with us, and if someone wants to discuss something with them, they just go to an office or a room and have a talk. But you can call anytime.
I think that's good too, that
It's like,
this is already changing. It's no longer seen as a weakness, but actually as something normal, just like you go to the gym, you go to clear your head or just talk to someone because, as I said, you're not machines. And anyway,
everyone has their own methods for dealing with it. Everyone deals with it in their own way. Some people keep it inside for a really long time. Some are able to talk it out during the shift, just among the guys. And then there are those who are really like the burned ones. That's also a very specific smell.
wait, you can't say
Oh, you mean like at a fire?
at the roaring fire when the flames are truly intense. Do you somehow perceive its distinct smell, even through the protective breathing apparatus?
No, not then, it's later. When we go in there with the investigator, for example,
Yeah, that's when you go in without a mask and you find.
a person has to find a way to deal with it, right? For example, to carry someone out, even if it's hard to reach them or they're blocked somewhere.
And then you can still smell it for like a week afterwards, or.
No, not that.
So it's not like you.
Usually with corpses, especially decomposed ones somewhere, you really can smell it, but that's kind of in your head. That smell is just a sensation. You tell yourself that you truly didn't like it, and you just keep on smelling it like you absolutely should be breathing through your nose, which should, at the very least, filter it out a little bit.
Yeah, but when you breathe through your nose, you actually smell it even more, right?
Yeah, but when you breathe through your mouth, it can get onto your palate,
Ah, right, that's true.
and that's really tough. It's
Well, I think that's enough of the negative stuff for us to get the idea. We won't dwell on it any further, but let's try to lighten things up a bit as we wrap up. Do you also have, or I'm sure you also have some funny calls or bizarre experiences?
we do. And I basically already mentioned one with the parrot. Then we had a cat in a tree. Once we were called out around, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning for a fire in a built up area. And it was a fire in some of those old circus caravans, really old ones, the kind that were probably still pulled by horses. And there were three of them next to each other, and they were really burning completely. So we arrived to put out the fire, and after a while, we noticed an older gentleman standing behind the fence, spraying water with a hose.
A garden hose?
He was spraying and trying to put out the fire with a garden hose. It didn't even reach the fire. He was about 15 meters short, but we let him be. So we put out the fire. We started taking things apart, and the old man came over and asked, "Guys, do you still need my help with the firefighting?" And he kept spraying. So, yeah.
So Grandpa was happy that he finally got to put out a fire.
I couldn't believe that at 2 in the morning he didn't even call us. Apparently it was some other neighbor who called us,
Yeah, he thought he could handle it on his own, right?
and I don't know, at 2 in the morning he just spends 2 hours putting out his own water. Seriously.
He was just happy to be needed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then I've got one that's actually really, really funny when a guy called us from the train station. He was waiting for his train and there was a bench with a pipe and he kept sticking his finger in it until it got stuck. So we went there. It couldn't be solved on the spot. He had cut himself on something and it started to swell. So we cut off a piece of the bench. Oh God, that finger. No, we literally cut off a piece of the bench and took it with us to the station. And we put it in a vice because you couldn't get under it, not even with a shim like for a ring.
Right.
So originally we wanted to go to the hospital. In the end, the ambulance came to us, and while it was in the vice, we were cutting it off for him. So in the end, everything turned out great. Nothing happened. It was awesome. The ambulance left, he didn't need any treatment, and then he asked us if we could give him a ride back because he was going to miss his train.
So you were supposed to give him a lift to the train again, huh?
So I said, not me. The commander said, that's not really how it works. So he started getting really upset across the whole station, yelling that we wouldn't give him a ride to the train.
If you don't do it, then he says that the last thing you guys don't do is give people rides, right?
There are probably a lot of funny stories like that. I've got another great one. This was when we were responding to a house fire, and there was an old lady, a grandmother, standing outside. We asked her if everyone was outside. She said, no, Felipe is still in there. So we spent a good half hour searching, but we didn't find anyone. We were basically looking for a child, so we went back to ask if maybe someone had taken him away. No, Felipe was at home with me. He's definitely in there. The guys were swapping out their breathing apparatuses. They'd already used up their air, so we were about to go back in. And at that moment, an older dachshund appeared between our legs. The lady clasped her hands and said, Felipe.
So it was just a old dachshund.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Funny how she didn't manage to mention in that half hour that it was a dog.
No, right, Felipe was her whole life.
Well, he's a member of the family.
He was a member of the family, yeah.
Perhaps she was truly afraid that you would try less hard if you knew the full truth, as if you would be running frantically around a burning house looking for her beloved dog.
Yeah, I mean, if it was really burning badly, then it probably wouldn't be possible, but in this case, it was doable. But basically, it all worked out. Oh, the search for people was carried out. No one was there, so we could proceed. But since we had a report that someone was inside, you really have to search thoroughly. Another really good call was when we had to get a drunk guy down from a statue. We got a call for transport, just a regular patient transport, or rather transporting a person from the main square. So we got there, and there's this big statue about 4 meters tall, and on top of it a guy, completely wasted, dressed as Batman. And when he tried to climb down, he got caught by his cape and was left hanging there.
You mean
He couldn't have done that, actually. It was kind of amazing. He was asleep. By the time we got there, he was asleep
he was hanging there by his cape, snoring,
by his cape and sleeping.
like rock climbing? Wasn't he secured?
It was like,
So he showed up there with a ladder and said, "So wake up, you're hanging here."
no, no, we got him down with a rope. It was a bigger statue, so we tied a rope around it. We put him in a rescue triangle and lowered him down, but he basically kept sleeping the whole time. Well, then he got a taxi to the drunk tank.
It worked out.
It worked out for him, it cost him a lot, but this is for real. Every time I see a statue, I picture him hanging there in that cloak like Batman. But really, that costume was just amazing. It was like a totally authentic costume, honestly. Or should I tell one more? We arrived to put out a fire in an apartment. The first floor was completely filled with smoke, like totally. So we opened the door, and my colleague started spraying water in there. It was really a rookie, and the other guy tells him, keep spraying so we can see something. So he started blasting water in there, and after about 2 minutes, a screaming person came running out. He was making fries and just burned the fries.
You just burned the fries, right?
So he was naked, completely soaked. He actually fell asleep, so he burned the fries because he dozed off. So he ran out completely wet, stark naked.
The neighbors called the firefighters because
The neighbors called the firefighters, and that was a few years ago now.
listening to these truly inspiring stories, a great many people must really and truly see you as genuine heroes indeed. Uh, has anyone from your station or anyone you know ever received an award specifically for heroism or a medal?
Definitely from the station. Look, those medals are given even just for loyal service. That means after 10, after 20 years. The funny thing is, someone has to nominate you for it. In January, they nominated a colleague who's been there for 23 years, and he got the 10-year medal.
Oh, so that's how it is.
So yes,
They can nominate him again after 20 years now, right?
yeah, it looks like you get the medal twice in the same year. For the medal, that means sandwiches for the team. A medal means, or if you're seen in the newspaper or on television, it means sandwiches or cake for the shift.
Yeah. So you treat everyone, right?
You treat them. Exactly. And with some kind of award for rescue, we have guys who have won. I have one too.
Really? Are there any financial bonuses for that?
Yes, if it's from the department. Nowadays, a lot of medals are handed out by the region. Those are proposed through the region and they're given for free.
Of course, a great many people certainly see you as true heroes and all that, but I can definitely imagine after all, we are Czechs, or just people in general, and people are, well, people. Have you ever had any significant experiences with real troublemakers or genuine jerks?
Definitely.
And there must be loads of them too, right?
There's quite a lot of that. And I actually have an example as we were going to put out a fire at a house and you couldn't get through the house. It was on fire. There was a pergola or some kind of shelter on the other side of the house in the yard. And you couldn't get through the house. Next door, the neighbor had a sort of passageway, like a garage, but it led through to the yard. And we're actually allowed to enter properties and so on. But he didn't want to let us in
Like, why?
because we'd mess up his place. And he said he needed to get some sleep before work.
You mean your neighbor's house is on fire and you won't let the firefighters in because you want to get some sleep?
Like, no discussion. Then we kind of moved him aside.
Yeah, like we can't.
Just normally, yeah. We just handed it over to the police and then the police dealt with it, but we're not supposed to argue with them or anything like that. But
When you have to focus on what's best for saving people or property, like a burning building, you don't have to take that into consideration in this regard. So, like if you even slapped them a couple of times or something like that, you can't do that. But if you just don't ask them and push past, is that defensible for you? You don't get into trouble for that or anything.
it should be defensible. Like, without any problem,
Yeah, so at least you're protected in that way.
this pushing past, like, you really shouldn't do it. But if he's not getting on, then
Sure, I'm not saying you should, but
it's just about what's better, whether to argue with him there or to find another way. Meanwhile, as the commander, I was looking for another way, but there really wasn't one. Simply put,
if you assess it like this, just plainly that there's no other option, then you have to go.
there actually was, there was a second, well, there was a second way. I won't say there wasn't, but it was demanding and extremely complicated. Here, it was straight ahead, just about 15 meters through the house, and we were there. So there was nothing to discuss.
I'm just thinking, how much of an asshole do you have to be to do something like this to your neighbor?
So many times we're somewhere, and when we arrive, we have to turn on the beacons. So many times someone comes over and asks us to turn them off because they're flashing into their window and they can't sleep.
You're putting out a fire in the house across the street, but of course you have the beacons on, right? So that no one crashes into you or anything. And it disturbs people's sleep.
It disturbs people's sleep. Or like sometimes we stop at an accident. The accident is somewhere in a little street in the city, and we always park in what's called a blocking position. That means if someone is going to crash into us, they'll hit the tanker and not us. That's mainly on the highway and on those faster roads. But there was already an accident there anyway, so no one would have gotten through. So we positioned the vehicles so that it would be easy for us to work, so everything would be close by and convenient. And then a guy came up and started yelling at us, asking how we could dare to park like that, saying he needed to get through because he was going to work. You're not going to get through here anyway, there's an accident. If we weren't standing here like idiots, he'd just drive around the accident on the sidewalk. Yeah, that's also about those emergency lanes here. I have to knock on wood, but people are finally starting to learn.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
But how many times they make an emergency lane and still someone just goes wherever they can squeeze in? Nowhere. But sometimes people just don't think. Everyone's glued to the bumper. When I'm driving in a traffic jam, I leave 10 meters in front of me. I don't have to drive on the far left, it's a jam, but I keep my distance. I know Czechs are used to not leaving a gap because someone will just cut in.
Exactly.
But if you leave a gap and then you see, aha, an alley, then in those 5 or 10 meters, you're able to turn off. If you're bumper to bumper, then you can't turn, you can't get anywhere.
All right. So, one last thing, there have definitely been some events in recent years. Now, for example, as you probably know, there was a tornado here, or maybe you were involved in the response as well. There were some big fires in Bohemian Switzerland when the forests were burning, and now after the floods in Jasniki. So do you go to or have you participated in such events as well?
Yes, I was at the tornado site a week after it happened. I can say that there wasn't much rescue work left, but there was a lot of cleaning up, just like here. You definitely had it tough here. I even talked to a guy from one of the stations around here who was among the first on the scene, and he said they were there alone for almost an hour
The volunteers,
before anyone managed to get there.
everything went out here completely.
And he said it was a massacre. They basically didn't have any proper tools, nothing. Spine boards, those are the boards you put a person on. There's usually one in a car, maybe two if you're lucky, or if you have two vehicles or something. And they were carrying people out on doors.
Yeah.
Apparently, gas was leaking everywhere.
There were simply more injured people than there were boards, so they took doors and
So he said it was a massacre. I was only here later just cleaning up for about a week, and I thought it was pretty much a disaster. But now I've just come back from Jizniki, and I'll say it bluntly, but honestly, the tornado was the lesser evil.
yeah,
Because you still had roads, you still had access to water, or perhaps even more, you had essential infrastructure,
utilities actually. Underground stayed intact.
sewage, gas, all the utilities except electricity. And you can solve electricity with a generator. There, people are simply without sewage, without water, without bridges. We were in a village where the whole village, divided by a river, had about 9 or 8 bridges. I won't say exactly. Only one was left, and there are no train tracks. The infrastructure is just terrible. Everything is gone. So,
Was the help there sufficient? Whether from the public or, for example, there was a lot of criticism of the army that they weren't doing anything, that they were deployed too late. So, how is it really?
from what I saw, there were far fewer volunteers there than during the tornado. But I don't know, I can't say for sure. Absolutely no complaints about the army because we were actually there. There were guys from the army who arrived about a day before us. They worked their tails off. Their help was fantastic.
And they were there even before the firefighters from other regions arrived.
Yeah,
Because I know that people are complaining, saying the army isn't there anymore, but that's not how it works, right? At first,
it doesn't work like that. Someone has to organize it.
it has to be organized. You need to know where help is actually needed and so on. Is the
Someone has to approve it. Someone has to approve it. Someone has to find people who's gonna go. This one is on vacation. That one is at work. That one can't. Another has something at home. So it was the same for us. So they quickly gathered us, and then we went there. And before we got the go ahead, we just waited. Yeah, but it's not good. But I guess it can't really be done any better.
and you really can't fully prepare for that, right? For the organization.
No, definitely not.
It is what it is, you know?
So as for volunteers, we were there. We started outside the weekend and stayed until the weekend. Over the weekend, more of them arrived. There weren't that many of them, but there were enough. On the other hand, some villages apparently didn't have anyone. It's really hard to judge this. I wish them strength to get through it. They really don't have it easy.
Those people, or when you talk to the locals, what was the mood like there at that point? Or what does it look like there now?
With the locals, when we first arrived, they wanted help cleaning up in front of their houses. They had already moved a lot of things out and didn't really want to let us into the house. They were used to handling things themselves, like we can manage on our own. Or at least that's really how it seemed to me. But I don't know. By the third day, since we saw they had 20-30 centimeters of mud there, you can't handle that on your own. I think there were mostly more older people there than younger ones. So after that, they started calling us in, and we helped. We carried out mud, and sometimes we had to get coal out of the basement because the coal was completely soaked. Everyone says it'll dry out. It doesn't dry out, it just heats up, and then the wet coal in the basement starts to burn. So it all had to be thrown out. Well, after that, we helped out, and it actually turned out to be great. When we arrived somewhere, we would even joke around with the locals. The lady had 5 centimeters of mud and said, "But please, take your shoes off so you don't track anything in."
That's a good one, yeah. You know, humor there has to be fun, even if all hell breaks loose, as they say. This sense of humor never goes away.
So next door at the neighbors, we went over there afterwards. And why didn't you clean up if you invited us over? So everyone started laughing again, and she said, "Well, my neighbor told me you already tracked mud into her place, so here it doesn't matter." So yeah, there was definitely humor. For me, it just wouldn't work without it.
I think the biggest event you took part in like this, or at least the one where, as far as I understand, the most fire units were deployed in one place, was probably that fire in Trensko, right?
The fire in Bohemian Switzerland.
In Bohemian Switzerland. So you took part in that as well.
Yeah, I was there too.
If you could just quickly describe how it actually went. What was the hardest part? And
It went on for about 2 months.
damn,
or a month. I really don't want to say something wrong.
Yeah, sure. I know it lasted time.
It was a long time. You can't really prepare for that. It just started spreading. And if I compare it to Jeseniki there, you worked during the day and in the evening we just finished up, went to dinner and then to bed.
Hmm.
And the next day you continued. In Bohemian Switzerland, the fire wouldn't wait, so we had to work night shifts there. There was very little sleep, so there were a lot of units, a lot of water, and a huge number of hoses laid out. There were times when we were in places where the fire had already passed. Everything was completely burned to ashes, just a black plain. And you would walk there, or we would walk there with a backpack sprayer, which is basically a backpack that holds 20 liters of water. And we used that to put out some of the hot spots because there was no other way to get there.
You were walking there for dozens of kilometers with 20 liters of water on your back.
So it was extremely tough to walk around there, and it was hot, really. It was sometime in August, late August, or maybe September. But in the end, it turned out well. We managed to put it out. Yeah, but without the help of those helicopters and planes, it definitely wouldn't have been possible. I think pretty much every firefighter in the country was there.
Including volunteers.
That's why, yeah, it was physically extremely demanding. Mainly, they herded us together. We slept somewhere in a gym or in some community center on the floor. Not that it mattered, but we had to rotate shifts every few hours. And when you spend the whole night putting out fires and then they let you sleep, but you couldn't block out the light there. There were no curtains. So,
When it was, say, 9 in the morning,
full sun,
Sunday was blazing.
full sun, you fall asleep, but you only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then your body just doesn't want to sleep anymore. In this situation, you'd eat and then go back out to fight fires again.
All right, well, I think we've pretty much covered everything, haven't we? I truly believe that we could talk with you about a great many things for a really, really long time. So, if you'd like to see a follow up with our amazing firefighter here, we will certainly see what we can do to make that happen. Or we could come up with something else for you. Thank you for coming, for sharing your experiences. And I think it's interesting for a lot of people, even for someone who might be considering joining the fire department. Thank you for watching all the way to the end and see you in another video. Bye.